Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Talk Kashrus, presented by the Kashrus Awareness Project in conjunction with Torah Anytime. Today I am privileged to be joined by Joe Flohr of Joe Flohr Events. Joe, thank you for coming back once again for this conversation. Last time we met, we spoke about your company, Joe Flohr Events, getting a Hashgacha, which, like I said last time, we commend you for that. You're definitely an example to other businesses that it could be done and it should be done. You spoke about the fact that the financial aspect was not even a concern to you because you felt doing the right thing is ultimately going to be to your benefit. And the fact that, Kalkara came out about home-based businesses, which opened your eyes to the need for hashgacha and things like that. And I'm sure that your ability to run a successful party planning business with a hashgacha is going to inspire other people to do the same, whether they're a home-based business or a party planning business. What I'd like to speak to you for a few minutes today is the practical applications of having a hashgacha, especially a business like yours, which has so many moving parts. You're a party planner, which, like we discussed last time, involves a lot of coordination, caterer, venue, rentals, and so on and so forth. Describe for us on a practical level, how does a kashrus organization supervise such a complex operation?
Sure. So every job is obviously different, but we'll start with the basics. So every job, as soon as it's confirmed, I send the hashgacha notification of the day of the event, location, and then I start going through the caterer, everything, what I'm renting, with the vendors, everything that's related to food gets listed down in there. And then the hashgacha can do their research, which one's okay, which one's not okay, and if it's not, we'll change it out.
They'll let you know.
They'll let us know, we'll change it out. If it's any liquor, they'll check all the bottles, they'll go through the lists and make sure everything is approved beforehand.
So we're talking about, let's say for a typical event, the venue itself, do you typically make food on site, or are you usually getting ready-made food
usually
from a caterer?
getting ready-made, but every once in a while we'll do, let's say, like a barbecue type of thing. It's made on site, but the Mashgiach will let them know what we're getting and where we're getting everything from. Some things will be from caterers, some things will be, let's say, ordering stuff, and then it'll be approved by them, make sure everything is okay, and then obviously on the day of the job, the Mashgiach will go through everything.
So if you're using a venue and it needs koshering, I don't know if that's ever happened to you, they'll check that out and make sure that the koshering is done appropriately.
So if it's a non-Jewish venue, it's a little more complicated because obviously you have the issue with their kitchen and their equipment. There's always, you have to be a lot more on site because there's a lot more things to watch out for, and a lot of things they try to slip in. If they're using, especially venues that use their own staff, they're used to their things and they'll just grab a knife from here and use the thing. So you have to really be in top. And I've been to events, I've done events like in non-Jewish places, and they're trying to sneak in things because they're trying to impress. And they have, we ran out of this, let's try to get it in. And Mashgiach standing there catching them.
Wow.
Happens. A lot of non-Jewish venues have this thing, so you have to really be on top of the game with these things.
The reason why that's an eye-opener to me is, not because I'm shocked that they're trying to do that, but, I mean, what in the world would happen if a party planner is arranging such an event and there's no Mashgiach? It's scary to know. There's no oversight. We know that especially elite chefs are very possessive about their knives, their utensils, right? And like you said, if there's no deterrent, there's no one stopping them. What is going to stop them from sneaking things in, or even not in a bad way? How would they know what the kosher standards are for the average Orthodox Jew if it's a non-Jewish venue?
Yeah, absolutely. So
they'll check out the venue. If you're getting food proper, already prepared, your supervising agency, which you can mention, whose hashgacha are you under? KCL. So the KCL of Lakewood, they'll go through, I guess they'll make sure that wherever you're getting the prepared food from, that it's an approved entity. You mentioned drinks. If you're having a bar of some sort?
Yeah, so either the bar you're hiring, or if you bring any liquor, everything gets, let's say a lot of times the venue provides liquor. If they have a liquor license, you can bring in outside liquor, so you have to use their liquor. So they sometimes send us the list and everything gets approved before, and obviously the day of, Mashgiach will go through everything that's there, because obviously you can't trust them what they actually brought.
Right. So they'll have to go through the whole bar and make sure that everything there is certified.
Yeah, as far as a lot of juices have issues as well.
There's no. I mean, is there a way to ensure? I might be asking a loaded question, but is there a way to ensure that an event is totally kosher without having proper supervision in your eyes? Having done this? Yeah, without any supervision.
Meaning a lot of event planners hire caterers, and the caterers on the Mashgiach, so they're watching their thing. Doesn't mean they're necessarily watching everything else.
Yeah, but so they're hiring a caterer. A caterer may be the kitchen may be on the highest level of kashrus, but what's going out in the ballroom where you have, let's say, a sushi station and a drink station and a waffle station and this station that may be independent vendors,
100%.
right? So, I mean, it could be trouble.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
Talk about the benefits. We spoke a little about it last episode, but again, I think it's important to bring out the benefit of having those extra hands of a mashgiach, of a supervising agency, really working not against you. They're not looking to catch and make problems. They're really there as allies to help your operation make it more efficient. Talk about that.
Sure. I mean, I've had, as far as efficiency, I had one of the scenarios that Mashgiach, we hired additional ashgacha. The venue had ashgacha, and the customer wanted something a little more than that. So we hired additional ashgacha, and they saw that we rented something from one of the places. That ashgacha didn't approve the cutlery. The day of the event, I just called another rental place which they approved, and they sent down. Mashgiach was very impressed. He's like, I've never seen these. You try to squeeze, make it happen. The party planners. I was like, the customer hired a ashgacha because he wants to have his standards. Like that's his job. So if he's doing his job, we got to do it. We got to service what the customer wants. So that's one thing. I mean, over in the kitchen, some of the caterers that I work with, the Mashgiach really helps out a lot. They're doing a lot of the management. They know they work with the caterer, and they know
how things
the
work.
system. They know the system. Yeah, they're trained. They're good managers on site. So it's like having the best manager on site. They're well trained in the halacha stuff and in kitchen stuff. So it just makes the event flow.
It's good to hear. Now, I'm sure it's easier sometimes when you're doing local events in the tri-state area. You live in Toms River. Your supervising agency is based out of Lakewood, so it's a little more convenient when you're in the tri-state area. When you do events out, I know you do events across the country. Talk about it. How much more complex is that?
Yeah, so it's really the ashgacha has to send someone down. So it makes it complicated in their end sometimes, but sometimes I work with a caterer that caters travel. The local caterers can work around the United States, so they come along with their team and the Mashgiach and everything else. So that makes a lot of it easier, and a lot of the food, a lot of stuff, some stuff gets shipped in. Some things vendors send things frozen, and we could bring in things from everywhere, New York, Jersey. So we stick with the vendors that are approved.
Right. Now you mentioned before about sometimes the non-Jewish staff, whether they mean it or not, trying to sneak things in. Any other eye-opening scenarios that come to mind where, like, you breathe a sigh of relief because, your team or your mashgiach really caught something on site at one of these events?
You have cases that, let's say they have these either omelet stations, right? So you have the guys turning on and off the flame every single time because they don't want to get hot every time.
Sure.
On and off. You have bishlakim. So
I want to tell you an interesting thing. I was at an event, the Art Scroll Talmud Yerushalmi Siyum at the Trump Doral in Florida. I'm not a big jet setter. I don't travel a lot, but I happen to have been at the event, and it was an amazing thing. That's why I'm mentioning. It's interesting that you mentioned that. I saw from fellow standing near the omelet station, basically doing nothing, and I was wondering why he was standing there. I introduced myself. I said, "Oh, are you a guest here?" He said, "No, I'm actually working for the caterer." I forget which Rav Machshir was, and I said, "Are you standing here for kashrus purposes?" And he said, "Yeah. You see these are self-standing omelet makers with a propane tank." And he said, basically, if the fire goes out, I'm here to make sure I'm going to relight the fire. And he was there the entire breakfast just for the omelets to make sure that if the fire went out, that the non-Jewish workers didn't turn it back on. He turned it back on.
Yes.
Now, if you don't have a hashgacha agency overseeing your operation, and you're a party planner and you're serving omelets and you have such a station, there's no way to ensure that if a fire goes out that they're not going to turn it back on. I'm just practical example.
Sure. I mean, the waiters that work a lot with the Jewish clients, they know. They stay, even like the shaving dishes, lighting the flames for the sternos.
Right.
So the waiters then know. But the new people, the new waiters, you get new staff, they're not familiar with them. They just light them and whatever. They come there inside, they fill it with wood and they light them. But the trained waiters, when Mashgiach is there, he knows when they're doing that to be around to make sure they don't light it.
I would say, as we conclude this conversation, I would say the most comforting thing for a consumer is to know that the head of the company they're employing, in this case party planners, that the guy in charge or the woman in charge is a erliche shemer Torah mitzvah, someone who really cares not just about the reputation, but to make sure that everything is being done on the highest level. And in your case, having someone like you who's so tuned in and so passionate, not just about the quality of your product, but about the kashrus of the product, really should make the consumer so much more comfortable. And on that note, as we conclude, is there any message that you could give to any business owner out there who's been on the fence? They thought about getting an hashgacha, they're not sure, they're worried about the money, they're worried about the time, they're worried about the nuisance. Just one final message encouraging them that at the end of the day, they could only benefit from such a thing.
Right. I mean, I was, I guess, a little bit skeptical also in the beginning. Like, it's going to be complicated. I'm not going to be able to use this vendor and that vendor and this caterer and that caterer. It ended up working to my benefit. I work with certain caterers that are very good. And it helped me. It's very assuring to know that you don't have this liability, that you have hundreds of people that you're serving that may be eating something that's questionable or worse than that.
I like what you're saying, almost that you could have the menuch sanefesh, the serenity,
you're getting
the
insurance.
peace of mind, and you could focus on what you do best,
exactly,
which is creative party planning. That is your forte.
Right.
That's what you're good at, and you don't have to have that extra burden on your head of also worrying about the kashrus.
Not everybody in the catering or food business is necessarily trained in every aspect, and even if they are, they can't necessarily oversee everything. It's not possible.
Right.
And if you have someone that's dedicated doing that, to whichever scale it is, it's small or big, every scenario is different. If you have, let's say we do a smaller event and it's not a non-Jewish venue, these things it's not so complicated. They just come, they check everything out, everything is running smoothly, they check all the vendors are okay, and that's it. They don't necessarily have to be around the whole time, as long as they check everything. And same thing with small home businesses, it could be even less than that. Sometimes they install like a camera and they just check in every once in a while. Things like that, it's not that expensive, and your customers are guaranteed to go with the kashrus standards of the Torah the proper way. It's very comforting.
I think you sleep better at night as well, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because you have that menuch sanefesh. Kol kavod to you. Continued hatzlacha. I hope that your business continues to explode, and the Rebbeinu Shalom should bench you with continued hatzlacha for really taking that proper step and serving as an example to so many other businesses. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.